Russian man from the 1950s.
The bodies had been discovered at different sites and at different times. Some had signs of severe internal trauma. Others showed traces of radiation. Half the bodies were naked or wearing each other's clothes, and there was no object in the vicinity that could have caused any of that to happen, as concluded by the Soviet investigation. This is Jake Storielli, and this is Laughs from the Past.
That was pretty good, man.
It was all right. There's a couple words that were choppy. I watched one YouTube video of how to do a Russian accent because I had a generic one. The only key he gave me was the letter L.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to say it when you say L on the roof of your mouth. You're supposed to like leave the L there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said like vodka, like W and V is kind of...
So the L is concluded to be concluded.
Concluded.
Interesting.
But like I hold on to it for too long. I don't know. But I think my natural Russian accent is not very bad, my friend.
Your natural Russian accent is like your face is normal. Because I was about to say, I feel like when everyone does a Russian accent, they scrunch up their face like they're angry, like in Russia. Squint
it is
their eyes.
is naturally angry accent. People assume you're mean. You drink vodka. You've been to the Google game.
So that's how we're opening up season 3. I'm going to give Jake a place, identity, some factors, and then he's going to do the opening. And now we peeled the curtain back, but in the future, that's how it's going to open. Pretty good. So we are in Russia. And we are in the late 1950s, and this is the Dyatlov Pass. Am I saying that right? Dyatlov Pass incident?
Sure.
I think I'm going to guess it was the last name. Have you heard of this story, Jake?
I have not.
Okay, so that's exciting right off the bat.
Dyatlov Park incident. No, I'm not familiar.
All right, so I'm going to tell you the story, and then we're going to go into some theories and everything. Anyone that's first time listening to Laughs from the Past, this is season 3, episode 1, Mysteries, Historical Mysteries, okay? I'm very excited about this.
Sure.
So here we go, the Dyatlov Pass incident. On the surface, and I am reading a article that I think was on Vice by Derek Mead, and then I got a bunch of other articles that I diced in and out, but I like to give credit to whoever I'm reading. On the surface, what's become known as the Dyatlov Pass incident seems fairly explicable. Of a party of 10 skiers, 9 perished in the middle of a high-difficulty trek in conditions that reached sub-30 degrees Celsius. But the details, which are mostly based on diaries of those involved, as well as records from Soviet investigators, are chilling. On the night of February 2nd, 1959, members of the party apparently ripped their tent open from the inside and wandered into the tundra wearing nothing but what they wore to bed. Ooh. Okay. Are you interested? Are you excited?
I'm interested.
Okay. 3 weeks later, 5 bodies were found, some hundreds of meters down a slope from the original camp. It took 2 more months for investigators to find the other 4 bodies, which curiously were partially clothed in articles belonging to the earlier discovered dead. Tests of those clothes found high radiation levels, despite that, and heavy internal trauma, including fractured skulls, broken ribs suffered by some members of the party. Russian investigators reported they could not find evidence of foul play and quickly shut the case. So Russia was like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. These skiers that were trekking and died, and they had injuries sustained, like blunt trauma, by nothing that could have done it in nature, in like where they were.
Right.
So they couldn't have been done with just fists. They would need rocks, and there was nothing of that. It was just snow.
So basically, we've got 10 bodies go missing. When they're found, it appears they've been murdered in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. It appears
when the government was trying to write it off as there was guys skiing in minus 30 degree weather. So yeah, they're dead.
Yeah. So it's not that not that the injuries murdered them. What they died from, I think, was like, starvation or frozen to death, I think. Like, I don't think any of the injuries were the reason for them dying, but they were found away from their tent, which was in the middle of the snow.
Okay.
Crazy. All right. The trip was organized by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. So that's why it's called the Dyatlov Pass, because he was the leader of this crew. It was meant to explore the slopes of Tordom Mountain in the northern part of the Ural Range and started on January 28th, 1959. Yuri, the only member of the expedition to survive, got sick before the crew made it fully into backcountry and stayed behind at the village. Lucky break for Yuri.
Yeah.
Maybe he knew something.
Maybe he's in on it, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. We have Yuri as suspect number 1 as of now.
He's a suspect.
Okay. He got sick.
Until proven innocent.
The other 9 trekked on, and according to photographs developed from rolls recovered by investigators, the crew set up camp in the early evening of February 2nd on the slopes of a mountain next to Ortoten. I just read that, and I was like, man, now we get like phones and instant videos to sum things up in social media, but like in the 50s, you found that roll of film, and then you develop it in the darkroom. Like, what could be on those? Your imagination could run wild.
You could be stumbling into anything.
They develop a photo. It could be like a guy holding a sign in the photo that took a selfie and said, "I killed them." That would be convenient for the cops.
Right.
Or what if they develop it and it's like the abominable snowman is in the picture, like Bigfoot. And then it's like, oh shit, a creature did this. They took a picture of him as it happened. Oh, no. Yeah, it'd be good news for detective work, but it like is a crazy thing.
Oh, it'd be a crazy thing, but I think in 1950s Russia, if Russia claims to having Bigfoot, I think that's nice.
Is the abominable snowman a real thing? I don't even know how to say that word.
I mean, no, I don't know what you consider a real thing, but no.
As like, do people think of that as this? It's Yeti. Okay. Yeti is the term. Wasn't
be
aware
like
of that.
an oversized bear with a lot of hair.
That walks upright.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that. The photos did not find that, which would have been awesome, though. Would have been real cool. The mountain, Jake, is known to the local indigenous Mansi tribe as Kolat Sahako, which supposedly translates to Mountain of the Dead.
Mountain of the Dead. Yeah, I mean, there's some hints. Spoiler.
I mean, it makes sense now. Now it should definitely be known as the Mountain of the Dead.
Right, if it wasn't before.
That's pretty crazy. It was known as the Mountain of the Dead. 9 people die on it. It's now known as Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah, that seems ass backwards, they say, Jim.
Okay, so the decision to camp on the mountain slope makes little sense. The group was reportedly only about a mile from the tree line, where they could have found at least a bit more shelter in the sub-zero conditions. They didn't appear to be strapped for time, and setting up camp on the face of a mountain rather than within a nearby forest is questionable, although not indefensible. Some people say Dyatlov probably did not want to lose the distance they had covered by going sideways to the mountains, or he wanted to practice setting up in the middle of the snow because they might have to in the future.
Sure, practice run.
Yeah. Practice run went terribly. They all died.
Apparently.
The camp would be the group's last. Dyatlov had previously said that the team expected to be back in contact on February 12th of that year, but also said that the group might take longer than expected. Well, I guess he's like, we might go see the sights. We might go, maybe we will check out the tree line every now and then. Detour us a little bit. So it wasn't until around the 20th that the alarm was raised. By the 26th, the camp had been found by volunteer search and rescue teams. That sucks to like in 59 how did they travel to there? Did they have to trek?
Probably.
Helicopters? Were they like convenient enough? And
I think it's like too cold for that shit.
I mean, I know. I'm just thinking if you're a detective and they're like, hey, we got some missing people. They might be on the Mountain of the Dead. Be like, okay, I don't really want to go there. Can I just do something local in the city?
I'd rather not be the search for body guys and the minus 30 stuff. Like, I'm going to be in Moscow.
Yeah. Let me just
accepting bribes from every bar and restaurant.
It had to be a terrible detail to go search for bodies in the middle of fucking nowhere on the Mountain of the Dead. When they arrived, they noted that the tents appeared cut apart from within and found footprints from 8 or 9 people leaving the tents and heading off downslope in the direction of the tree line. According to investigators, the group's shoes and gear were left behind, and the footprints suggested some people were barefoot or wearing nothing but socks. In other words, they all shredded their way out of their tent and ran off in waist-deep snow in a huge hurry, despite there being no evidence of other people or foul play within the group. There was no footprints going towards the tent. There was only footprints leaving the tent, and they ripped the tent open from the inside.
Right. Someone went crazy, right?
It's something that's like, I don't know. We have a lot of theories, okay?
Okay.
The first 2 bodies were found at the tree line under a giant pine tree. Remember that the tree line was about a mile away. Investigators wrote that footprints disappeared about a third of the way down, although that would have been due to weather in the 3 weeks it took for investigators to arrive. The 2 bodies were found were both wearing only their underwear and both were barefoot. According to reports, branches were broken high up in the trees next to them, which suggested someone had tried to climb it, and the remains of a fire lay nearby. So that's actually huge. Like, they were able-minded enough to make a fire when whatever this was. They were scared enough to run away naked,
Right.
but able-minded enough to make a fire.
Okay.
At this point, do you want to make any guesses, or do you want to hear the rest of the tale? Then we'll go into theories.
I mean, I've just got some weird stuff going on. Like, I'm trying to picture someone going crazy, maybe someone losing their mind, and then maybe they, like, start dousing water on someone. Like, they have their water ration, and they just start pouring it on that person in their clothes. So, like, you have to take them off to not freeze to death instantly, basically. I don't know. No idea.
It was sabotage. They got upset with each other and had a water fight in the tent. Could be.
You tell me.
3 more bodies, including Dyatlov's, were found at points. I apologize if I'm saying Dyatlov wrong, but I didn't check how to say it. They were found at points in between the camp and the big tree and apparently lay as if they were headed back to the camp. One of them, Rustam Slobodin, had a fractured skull, although doctors declared it non-fatal, and the criminal investigation was closed after doctors ruled the 5 had died of hypothermia.
Well,
So they yeah. 2 months passed until the remaining 4 bodies were found buried under a dozen feet of snow. And how did they find them? Buried under a dozen feet of snow?
I mean, did it melt 2 months later, and then they could say at the time it was under a dozen feet of snow? I don't know.
I hope, because imagine, like,
Yeah.
I'd get 3 feet into the snow and be like, no bodies here.
Yeah. No, thank you.
12 feet. Wow. The inexplicable behavior of the prior 5 members of the party aside, it was this discovery that was most horrific. All 4 suffered traumatic deaths, despite there being no outward appearance of trauma. Nicholas Thibault Brignolo also had a fractured skull. Alexander Zolotorov was found with crushed ribs. Ludmila Dubinin also had broken ribs and was also missing her tongue. That one's weird.
Yeah, that's out of the norm.
Yep. It is possible that the group was searching for help despite being in essentially the middle of nowhere while missing gear in sub-zero temperatures before they fell into a ravine. But that doesn't explain the missing tongue. And while some at the time posited that the group had been attacked by the Mansi tribesmen, coroners at the time stated that the trauma found required more force than humans can inflict, especially considering there wasn't accompanying outward trauma. So they're like, oh, the tribesmen got him. The indigenous people just killed him. Like, get off our land.
Right.
And they're like, no, the things weren't really done by humans. The investigator said it was equal to the effect of a car crash.
I mean, could that have been like a post effect? Like, if you have 12 feet of snow on your chest, could that cave in your chest bones?
You're asking a guy who doesn't know, but I would say no, it has to be like impact trauma.
Right.
Blunt force.
Impact trauma.
That's the name of our band.
Okay.
It gets weirder, Jake.
Okay.
You kind of said this in your intro. The final 4 were better outfitted than the other 5 and apparently had taken clothes off the dead as they continued their aimless trek. For example, one was found wearing another's coat and hat, and the other had wrapped her foot in a piece of wool pants that one of the 2 found at the pine tree had been wearing. To add to the mystery, the clothes found on the final group were tested and found to be radioactive. That's interesting. The radioactivity is truly odd, as it is the treatment of the investigation itself. So now they're saying The radioactive's weird, and the way that the Russian government treated this case is super sus.
You suspect.
Yes, suspect. Documents related to the case were sealed after it was closed and weren't opened until sometime in the 1990s. This writer says he's been interested in the case for a while and tried to dig up new info, but my requests to various intelligence agencies come up blank. Okay?
Okay.
Let's get into theories.
Sure.
One of the most interesting theories revolves around a sacred cave of local Mansi tribe, which they use for ritual sacrifice. The tribe apparently does not like to share the mountain with outsiders, and when the Dyatlov group allegedly robbed their sacrificial cave of its various items, they hunted them down, they killed them. This, however, is more word of mouth than anything else. Do you have any stock in this theory? The doctor said it wasn't blunt force trauma, it couldn't have been done by humans, but it is the mountain of the dead.
Right. Well, it was the Mountain of the Dead.
Now it's Dyatlov Pass, yeah.
So we've got what? Like, is this like a tribe? Are these like Aborigines people? What are we dealing with here?
Yeah, I think it's a tribe. I think it's like a tribe of people, like,
Okay.
indigenous people.
So I would say, and like this sounds weird that I think this is analysis, but the tongue cutout thing almost adds up there. Like that feels like something that a tribe or something would do as like a form of punishment.
Yes, that seems like another human did it.
Right. And I don't know, the trauma thing I'm kind of wiping away because, like, I don't know, this tribe folk, I'm assuming they have rocks and stuff. Like, you could do damage to a person, you know?
Yeah, that's true. If they have a cave, they probably have some belongings in there that could do the damage. That's getting
And they
overlooked.
probably got some booby traps to protect the cage. So,
Oh, man. Yeah, you're not a true tribe if you don't know how to build booby traps on your land.
so I mean, that with the rocks, yeah.
Okay, so you think that holds water?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we're missing right now is the radioactive part, which, I don't know. 1950s Russia? Hey. Well, hey.
Well, hey. Others argue that the chaotic and violent deaths could have been the result of a strong and toxic moonshine. The group had maybe procured from the local hunters. The stuff could easily have caused psychedelic hallucinations, it is believed, and this would have accounted for the Havardazard. What's that word?
Haphazard?
No, it's Haphazard.
Haphazard, yeah.
Escape. And
That's
the
like
group,
sloppy.
yeah, escape and the group's apparently inexplicable behavior. So you think they just had too much to drink?
I mean, that's definitely a thing, too. I mean, we're talking about ripping through the tent. We're talking about people naked in the snow. I mean, yeah, I've been on the end of that. I've been the drunk guy naked in the snow.
Yeah, I mean, now I know we've told this story on many platforms. Don't know if it's laughs on the past. Is there a chance they're sleeping in the middle of the night and there was an igloo situation like we had? We build an igloo, you fart in it, we run like hell out of it. Could someone have just been gassing up the tent?
There's a chance it could be fart-based. I mean, I think the other thing that we're acknowledging, but we're skipping over a little too quickly, is that, I mean, it's cold. One of my old coworkers went to University of Wyoming, and he said like a few people would die every winter because they'd get drunk and they'd not make it back to their dorm room and just like pass out outside and they'd die, like game over. Where if you do that in a lot of other places across the U.S., it's like a silly story, like, oh, he slept in the lawn for a little bit, how nuts. So, I mean, we're talking really cold here. And, I mean, even if it was a toxic fart, you still don't rip the tent open, you know?
Yeah, that's weird. That is weird. Next theory. The most likely explanation for the disaster is that the team's camp was buried in an avalanche, which would then explain the cut out of the tent and quite possibly some of the trauma. Should the team have been buried for any amount of time, hypothermia was likely to set in, which would go a long way towards explaining why they set off in search of help without any gear at all. Avalanches are incredibly powerful, and being caught in one could likely result in types of blunt trauma some of the group received. Again, with the 5 members of the team listed as having died of exposure, this scenario is most plausible. Avalanche hit them, buried the tent. They get freezing because now they're in an igloo.
Right.
And finally, they rip the tent open and run away in any direction to just get out of there because they're going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it checks out a little bit, right? You can cover the trauma stuff. Yeah, you can almost explain the ripping out of the tent. I mean, like, why were they naked? I guess that's still not explained.
When you get hypothermia, you start shedding layers. That's like one of the responses to it because you get really hot.
Oh, like your brain is overtaken?
Yes. Yeah. You like that one or no?
I do like it. I mean, that doesn't cover radioactive. I mean, nothing's covered radioactive so far.
No.
I mean, I didn't really know avalanche was an option. We're on like the side of a mountain. We're at the bottom of a mountain.
Yeah, side of a mountain.
Okay. I mean, yeah, avalanches are supposed to be like nasty and could wipe you out really easily. So
you ever seen those snowboarders and skiers who have the backpacks that have inflatables on them in case an avalanche comes, and then the inflatable will stay to the top of the snow? They're really cool videos.
I haven't watched any of the videos, but I think I'd like it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like a crazy device. Okay, so what I haven't told you and the audience yet is that there is reports of bright flying spheres on the night and time this happened in the area. And they say the way the government shut down the case right away, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
So there's a quote by someone that said, "I suspected at the time, and I'm almost sure now, that these bright flying spheres had a direct connection to the group's death." Another group of students camped out around 30 miles from the other group reported similar sightings at the time. In written testimony, one said that he saw a shining circular body fly over the village from the south, west to the northeast. The shining disk was practically the size of a full moon, a blue-white light surrounded by a blue halo. The halo brightly flashed like the flashes of distant lightning. When the body disappeared behind the horizon, the sky lit up in that place for a few more minutes. Sounds like what happened in New York the other month or the other week.
Transformer.
So maybe a transformer blew. But yeah, so there's these bright lights, which, I don't know if they're aliens. That doesn't do radioactivity. But if they're doing some nuclear testing, that could help with the radioactivity. And that would be why the government just shut it down right away.
Yeah, I mean, 1950s Russia. I mean, what's going on there? Not good things.
Just trying to kill people.
I mean, experiments. Let's be honest. I mean, what was going on? I mean, we're still near World War II Nazi stuff. I mean, you're telling me those guys weren't in Russia as well?
They're perfecting the bomb, the atomic bomb still.
Yeah.
Or looking at what the U.S. did to Japan and we got to make one. Let's test it out on the Mountain of the Dead. Where else? We're better to test it. Little ones. So it's possible that one of the members saw a crazy light in the sky and everyone freaked out running for their lives, but there has never been evidence of an explosion in the area, ruling out some sort of nuclear test or something like that. But a blogger most recently named Valentin Dyatlov, who was studying this crazily, and he was zooming in on Google satellite images of the pass, he thinks he found something interesting.
Okay.
He believes the deaths of the Dyatlov group were caused by a small yield missile that hit the side of the rock. Evidence of a 30-meter wide crater, he says in his online journal, can be seen on closer inspection of the satellite images of the area and is situated about 3 kilometers from the site of their tent. So he says the granite was melted to basically red glass. And I think the temperature at the moment of impact was very high. This is clearly visible in satellite image. So he says that you can see a mark in the side of the mountain where either a meteor hit or they were testing missiles and they just shot a missile at the side of the mountain and that hit, and these trekkers or campers or whatever got, in the mix of that.
Right.
They got shell shocked and then run for their life. The findings are even more strange given Degtarov's belief that the firing of the missile had not been a test. The missile had probably gone off course, changed direction, hitting the mountain face accidentally. The blogger states that had there been no radiation found on the clothes, his other theory would have been that a meteor hit it. But because there's radiation, he thinks it's a missile. He says the place needs a thorough look when spring arrives. All right, so to recap, you got 9 skiers. They're in the middle of the tent, in the middle of a mountain slope. They rip out from the inside. They run away in all different directions. Some are wearing each other's clothes. Some are wearing no clothes. They all end up dead from hypothermia. Jake, what happened?
Okay. I'm going to rule out any alien things that were hinted there because I think there's a lot of real-life stuff that can add up here.
I am also ruling out aliens, because I think they kind of are a cop-out.
Right.
Let's actually try to figure this fucking mystery out.
But I feel like there's a few mysteries that you can like, hey, that's kind of honestly a good option. Like this one we have, I think between the tribe people, an avalanche, and some missile testing in 1950s Russia, I think we have it. And Jim, I think I'm going to lean a combination of, how about a little missile testing and a little avalanche?
Oh, come the fuck on.
You like that?
You're stealing my theory.
Well, I figured it out. I'm sorry about
Okay,
it.
well,
I mean, at least I'm on record saying it first, so now you're just stealing my theory.
I'm stealing your theory, but I think the fact that we both went there shows it's got to be correct. We're the two smartest people on this podcast right now.
Right, currently.
Currently.
I don't know. It makes sense, right?
I mean, you said it a couple times, like 1950s Russia. They're shooting missiles. They're testing stuff out. Dead Mountain Pass. I don't think that it went off course or they hit it by accident. I think they were just firing missiles into the mountainside. If you were a Russian in 1950 and you saw a mountainside and you had a missile and you're like, we got to test it, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we have airplanes in the sky. Like, that's confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the government covering it up a little bit. I guess, I don't know. I guess, okay, so how, we need to go piece by piece here to make it make sense.
Yeah.
So we've got the 10 people. We're at our campsite, right?
Yeah.
And let's say they're boozing. It's 1950s Russia. I would be.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do something.
Okay. 1950s Russia. We're boozing. It's freezing out. Okay. So we see the planes and stuff coming overhead. I guess, I don't know. How do you get half the group to be radiated and with blunt trauma, and then the other half of the group is naked in trees trying to make a fire? I guess that's what I'm missing.
So I was confused because at one point it said that some people ran away and their footprints show they weren't wearing shoes and weren't wearing socks.
Right.
Then you have the dead people by the fire with no clothes on. So I thought they ran away from the tent with no clothes on. But then later on it said they found the other people wearing their clothes and they were making it seem like they needed extra clothes, so they took them off their friends who they found dead.
Right.
So is it possible that one group ran away without their clothes on, just completely lost their heads from seeing the blue light, feeling the vibration of the missile hitting the mountain, being covered in the avalanche of snow, and they just fucking panicked and they ran? And then once they like got too far away from the tent, they climbed the tree to see if they can see the tent. Like, oh, fuck, dude, we fucked up. We got to go back.
Right.
Get our supplies. And they're like, oh shit, we're not going to be able to get back. Let's make a fire. Then they die. And then the second group, they rode it out in the tent with and took it to see how long their supplies could last. Then they go out, they find their friends dead. They're like, well, fuck, that's sad, but I do need something to wrap my leg in and some extra clothes. Let's take their clothes off. And then they just, hypothermia kicks in, going crazy kicks in, and it sounds like they fell into a ravine. And that's where, can you bite a tongue right off? Would the inspector be able to tell this tongue was bitten off versus this tongue was cut off?
I'd like to think so, yeah.
I'd like to think so too, because why was her
the
tongue
is
cut
the
off?
missing aspect.
Yeah. Well, then one of the tribesmen just saw them and was like, give me that tongue, make some tongue soup.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. That's where maybe we go, you get a 10%, 20%, 30% here, and here, and try to put the whole thing together. Yeah, it seems like some sort of combo of missile avalanche. But I do feel like the tribesmen are involved somewhere.
Well, they're just like, you got what was coming to you.
Right.
We've been on this.
Where'd the tongue go?
They've been shooting missiles at us for years.
Where'd that tongue go?
Where'd that tongue go? That's the biggest thing. There's a movie out about this called Devil's Pass, which was made in 2013. If it's in English, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to see what they say. If you're interested in the story, there's also a new book that came out called Dead Mountain, The Untold Story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, which is being made into a new movie called Vanished.
Okay.
So if you want more from this story, that's where I would go your way. I haven't read it. I'd like to read the book. I'm super interested in this story. I think it's peculiar.
Yeah, I think I'm waiting for Vanish to come out.
You're not going to check out Dead Mountain, the first one?
No, don't believe. If they're making another movie about it 6 years apart, then they didn't cover what they needed to cover. So
True. Or one of them is in Russian.
yeah, that could be as well. God, the tongue. I'm just really hung up on everyone not having the radiation
And the tongue.
and the tongue.
Maybe there was a group. Okay, so now the people that have radiation, Jake, they
Right.
were outside the tent when the missile hit. Everyone else was inside the tent. Now they've got
I mean,
radiation.
Is that how radiation works? I don't think so.
Oh, I have no idea how radiation works.
I don't think so at all. Yeah.
I'm not authority on anything I'm saying in this entire podcast.
Okay.
But we're pretty sure a missile hit. The blogger found the evidence. That caused an avalanche. Of course it does. You ever play
Right.
Cool Borders on PlayStation? Of course that would cause an avalanche.
Yeah.
And then they ran away. I mean, I don't know. It just seems obvious to me. But I'm interested to see what other people think.
The guys in the tree don't have the radiation.
Is that true?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
All right, let me see. I'm gonna Control F radiation, find out which group had the radiation. And
Yeah,
which
I
group
never
didn't.
thought I'd really say this, but I need it laid out, like for the end game, I need it laid out like a math equation. Like I've got X guys here covered in radiation. I've got X guys here not covered in radiation. The people with radiation, I believed, have been the ones that have received trauma as well, and we're still missing a tongue.
Okay, so the group that went to the fire,
Fire group.
yeah. The other 4 bodies, which curiously were partially clothed in articles belonging to the earlier discovered dead, tests of those clothes found levels of high radiation. So it looks like the clothes of the first group that went to the fire had radiation, but they were being worn by the people who were wearing both sets of clothes, and their initial clothing didn't have radiation. So the fire crew had the radiation, I think.
So fire crew had radiation, but their clothes was stolen. Jeez. And that's the trauma crew. So how about this? So Russia goes in, they do whatever testing. Who knows what radiation or whatever bombs they're testing? Again, this is quite literally testing. Picture the first time you test making a meal. They're testing bombs. So they go in afterwards to see the effect, to see if there's any people or anything. Then they see that there's like this group of people there that survived it, but they're all sorts of messed up. So the Russian government brutally beats them to death to a degree that they say a person couldn't do this.
So you got the government like murdering them with their hands.
Afterwards, yeah, just beat them to death.
That's one
They
theory.
couldn't survive it. They couldn't pass on. They couldn't leak whatever had just happened.
Yeah. Okay. That could be it. My least favorite theory is that the tribesmen did it on their own. Like something crazy happened. It wasn't just the tribesmen came out of the cave and did all this shit.
Jimmy, I completely figured it out. It's my last theory.
Okay.
The government people cut out her tongue to make you think it's the tribesmen. Boom.
I'm with that. The tongue doesn't make sense. They did that to just be yes,
That
because
was to throw you off the scent.
yes.
Throw you off the scent.
Oh my God, you really figured it out. So it was the missile into the avalanche. The government did the missile, caused an avalanche. They panicked. They cut her tongue off. There's no unless it was bit off. If they were saying it was cut off with a knife,
Right.
I don't
that's
know.
Our only
It
caveat.
sounds like it would have been really frozen. Maybe the detective took out his portable blow dryer and just blow dried that tongue warm and then sliced it right off.
Portable 1950s blow dryer.
Or she died like a bird, like with her mouth open and the tongue just there, like hard. And he just took his hands right on it and snapped it like a Laffy Taffy.
Good movie scene.
Yeah.
Good movie scene.
It's the evil detective.
Oh my God.
This was something on site did this. Yeah. Okay. We solved it.
Yeah. Well, we might have. You guys tell us.
Let us know what you think happened with the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Either leave a review, tweet at me or Jim, at JohnBoy, at Talkin' Jake.
Yes.
Let us know. What did we miss?
I'm going to play the Dyatlov Pass pronunciation real quick to see how close and wrong I was this entire episode.
Okay.
Dyatlov.
It's
Dyatlov.
it's like Dyatlov. I was saying like Dyatlov, and it's just Dyatlov.
Deadlift.
It just sounds like a D and then some gibberish and then a V.
Okay.
Dyatlov.
You
And that's it. This was Laughs from the Past, Season 3, Episode 1. We got a lot of more fun mysteries. They're not all death. Some are weird, some are good, and we're still looking for samples. Oh, I had someone DM me, I think it was Keith. He DM'd me some options, and I definitely added one to the list that he said, which was the escape from Alcatraz, if they survived or not. That I've actually looked into like a lot, and no spoilers, but I know exactly what happened, as do some others. Oh, yeah. Big brains over here. Top 2 brains on the podcast confirmed.
Oh, it depends. My Noodle the Doodle Dog's been sleeping for most of this, but yes, as of now, yes.
Nice. Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. Appreciate you. See ya.